It's a weird thought, right? How could living in a smaller home actually feel, well, more luxurious? It sounds totally backwards. But get this, in Sweden, that's pretty much a reality. They've absolutely perfected the art of making compact living feel incredibly cozy, all while saving a ton of money in the process. So let's dive in and see how they pull it off.
I mean, let's be real. Most of us are kind of taught that success means a bigger house, more space, right? It's like the ultimate goal. But the Swedish approach, well, it just flips that entire idea on its head. They show us that constantly chasing more square footage might not be the path to a better or even a wealthier life. So what is their secret?
So you can really see it here, these two totally competing philosophies. On one side, you've got that constant pressure to get bigger, to get better, to level up. But the Swedish mindset is just completely different. They prioritize creating a home that's warm, manageable, and fits their actual lifestyle, not just some idea of what their life should be. All right, to really get how they do it, we're going to break their strategy down into 5 key parts. We'll kick things off with their core philosophy, this idea of Lagom. Then we'll get into their smart design, the financial power of minimalism, the genius of sharing, and finally, how they use nature as their ultimate free playground. Okay, let's start with the absolute foundation of it all, the Lagom mindset. This single idea of balance is so central to understanding why Swedes just don't feel that constant pressure to keep expanding their living space. Lagom, it basically translates to just the right amount. And it's not a philosophy about deprivation at all. It's about contentment, finding satisfaction in what's sufficient. This directly shapes their housing choices, shifting the focus from bragging about size to celebrating what's actually practical and truly comfortable. And the logic behind it is pretty fascinating. I mean, historically, a smaller home was just plain easier and cheaper to heat during those long, cold winters. Culturally, there's a really strong norm against showing off. And financially, it's just common sense. You get lower bills, less maintenance, and by living closer to city centers, a lot of Swedes save an absolute fortune by not even needing a car. But it's not just about the mindset, right? It's about how you put it into practice. And that brings us to our second point, how clever money-saving design makes these small spaces feel incredibly open and functional. Oh man, Swedish design really, really shines in small spaces. They've totally mastered multifunctional furniture, a sofa that's also a guest bed or a table that doubles as a desk. Smart lighting with warm LEDs and huge windows keeps those energy costs way down. Storage goes vertical all the way up to the ceiling. The decor is timeless, using natural materials that just don't go out of style. And there's this huge culture of buying secondhand, which saves a ton of money and is awesome for the planet. And here's a super simple but really powerful habit they often use. The one in, one out rule. It's exactly what it sounds like. Every time something new comes into the home, something old has to go. This one habit is just brilliant for preventing clutter, and maybe more importantly, it forces you to think twice before every single purchase, which naturally keeps spending in check. And that rule, it leads us perfectly into our next point. See, in Sweden, minimalism isn't just some design trend you see on Instagram. It's a really deep-seated financial habit that has a massive impact on personal savings. There's a really powerful psychological link here. A calm, uncluttered home helps foster a calmer, clearer mind. And when you're not surrounded by chaos, you're just less likely to make those impulsive purchases for a quick dopamine hit. Instead, you end up making much more intentional financial choices. The financial benefits are just undeniable. You spend way more intentionally focusing on durable items that will actually last, not cheap stuff you have to replace all the time. You spend less time and money on cleaning and repairs. And, this is a big one, you don't need a huge house just to store all your possessions, which is probably one of the biggest savings of all. Now, beyond what you do as an individual, there's another huge factor at play, the power of community. Swedes are absolute masters at cutting personal expenses by embracing shared resources and spaces. Just think about it for a second. Instead of every single apartment having its own washer and dryer, most buildings have a shared laundry room. This saves everyone space and the cost of buying and repairing their own machine. The same exact principle applies to outdoor space, with shared courtyards instead of private backyards. Some co-housing communities even have bookable guest rooms, so you don't need to waste space on one yourself. And this extends all the way to transportation, where great public transit helps people avoid the massive expense of owning a car. And finally, let's talk about what might just be the biggest money saver of all,
something that's woven into the very fabric of Swedish life. They replace expensive entertainment with something that is completely, totally free: nature. This whole lifestyle is made possible by a really unique law called allemansrätten, or the right to roam. It's incredible. It gives everyone the freedom to access almost all land for recreation. This basically turns all the forests, lakes, and fields into one giant public playground for everyone to enjoy, as long as they're respectful. So because of this, a typical Swedish weekend doesn't really revolve around going to the mall or doing expensive activities. It's about hiking, swimming, picking berries, or having a picnic with friends. This lifestyle isn't just healthier, it's incredibly affordable. Entertainment doesn't need a price tag when the best options are literally right outside your door and they're all free. So what this all really comes down to is a complete redefinition of what wealth even means. The Swedish approach shows us it's not about having the biggest house. It's about having just enough space, which in turn frees up your money, your time, and your mental energy for a richer, more fulfilling life. It really makes you think, doesn't it? In a world that's constantly screaming at us that we need more, the Swedish model offers this really powerful alternative. What if the ultimate luxury isn't having everything, but finding this deep satisfaction in just having enough?